give it a watch. All right, until next time, see ya.
And he has a note on his chest. Like, I don't.
What does it say?
I don't know.
No
My mom
sé.
closed the door really fast.
Only see I close the door.
Police are at the home of 40-year-old Alex Alfaro Castillo. His roommates had discovered him downstairs in a condition so shocking it left them reeling. As officers step inside, a toxic smell immediately hits them, and on the table, a mysterious note lies waiting, together hinting that something far worse is about to be uncovered.
Yeah, this is, you guys, this is definitely you.
What happened?
Go ahead, you want to take a look.
There's a note in there.
Was it a gunshot?
No, but just take a look. Sorry.
Yeah.
You had obvious ones and Scott.
Almighty, what is that? I don't know what he took. I don't want to breathe it in.
I just want to make sure it's not fentanyl or any other caustic substance.
Like I said, I just have a can on standby just in case somebody goes down.
The hunt for the killer would become a race to decipher these baffling clues. A search that would lead them through suspected gang ties and false motives, only to end with a dramatic police chase.
Get out! Stop!
A chase that would lead them directly to the killer, and this horrifying video.
Today, you're gonna die.
On May 26, 2018, officers in Herndon, Virginia were frantically called to this house on 404 Patrick Lane. When police arrive, the roommates are so shocked by what
Welcome to Idaho, where you too can experience the phenomenon known as when the BS comes falling.
Like you, be strong to hold the powers of the sun.
I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Listen to Pavarotti. Can I be your superhero?
Hello, welcome to The Revealing. I'm your host, Pavarotti, and I'm here to discuss the Idaho 4 case. And, you know, when the BS comes falling in Idaho, it just comes falling from every different direction in the sky, I tell you. And, you know, I try real hard to try to stay on topic, go through a series, and then something else happens and I have to cover that, and then something else happens and I have to cover that and that. So it's impossible just to stay on topic because there's too many directions that they seem to twist and turn us in this case. So in this episode, we'll be talking about those grievances that Kohberger's filing in prison. No, actually we won't. Have you ever seen anything as ridiculous as the mainstream morons and what they decide to cover? I can't remember a time where somebody was sentenced to prison and then they continue to follow what's going on with that person in prison. I mean, when there's really nothing, I mean, they dig up stuff to follow. So that should tell you that there's something strange about this case from the get-go. I mean, they're so entwined in it. I mean, it's almost like they're hoping something happens in prison so that they can never all be found out for their ludicrousy, their ridiculousness, and their idiocy. So, but we've got to stay on task, and there's so many tasks in this one. And, you know, it's hard for me because, you know, as I see the 1112 video comes out, we've got the families suing Laetah, trying not to get the crime scene photos released. they really didn't want that body cam released, I guess, but sure enough, they released it to at least Law and Crime so far. And there's so much coming out. It's crazy.
It is.
And there's still about 13 or 14 days left for Koberger to file his notice of appeal. And I can tell you, because as I've been covering this, studying.
Hello. How are you?
There's hardly any available from anybody.
Oh, really?
They're being stopped at the
Border?
customs, yeah.
Let me get one. Solid windows. Thank you. You too.
Fucking door, I swear.
In the docks, going through, trying to make sense of a senseless situation, I consistently go back to the sister case. And
Uh-oh. Why? Why did I have to do that again? So dumb.
the sister case is the other travesty that happened there in Moscow, and that was the Meister case. For those of you that have followed me for some time, you know as we dug into the Meister case, because why did we dig into the Meister case? Because they kept citing Meister in the Koberger case as the law of the land on alternative perpetrator evidence. Well, of course, it turned out Meister was a case from Latah County, prosecuted by Bill Thompson. I'm sure Ann Taylor was very familiar with the case when it was prosecuted. So when we dove into the Meister case, first thing that I noticed, and y'all that have followed me for a long time remember this, but I noticed that John Judge had interjected himself into the Meister case 20 years later for some reason when he had nothing to do with that case, and he was sealing records in 2023 in the Meister case. And when I found that, I was okay, they're hiding something in the Meister case that they don't want anybody to know that may apply to every case. And what's bad is as I continue to read, I've got to FOIA in for all the Meister stuff. And as I continue to read all the appellate decisions in the Meister case, because he didn't just file an appeal. I mean, he's filed so many appeals. He's gotten new trials. He was railroaded in new trials. He's filed for post-conviction relief. And when you go through and you look at the rulings on his post-conviction relief, I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. So when I say that Kohberger's got like 12 or 13 days left to file his notice of appeal, I mean, he needs to get to filing that thing, because post-conviction relief, if you look at the Meister case, he doesn't have a shot. What he has to do is file a notice of appeal, and just filing a notice of appeal, because Garza will not negate his plea deal. They won't automatically go, okay, we're putting the death penalty back on the table. Now, when he actually files his appeal, you got to file a notice, then you file the appeal. When he actually files his appeal, then they can remove the deal, put the death penalty back on the case, and they go to trial. But he needs to file a notice of appeal, then appeal, get rid of his plea deal, and actually go to trial to have, to have the best chance in this thing. If he doesn't do that, then I'm going to assume that he's resigning himself to stay in that penitentiary for life, because looking at the Meister case, there's not much hope after that initial trial. And here's the deal: when you really dive into the Meister case, you wouldn't believe all the correlations. For example, the person who is doing the litigating for his post-conviction relief is Kathy Mabbitt.
Really? Interesting.
One of the things that he had a hearing on his post-conviction relief. You can believe this. He had a hearing on his post-conviction relief. They bring in another guy from the penitentiary that he had to stay with that was testifying to some things. And because they brought him in, they started questioning him on his Odinism. Oh, this is serious. On his Odinism beliefs. And because Meister was in prison, they associated him with Odinism as well. And they attacked Odinism as a reason to overrule his appeal. I mean, it's freaking unbelievable. But sticking to this Kohberger case, because this is where the BS is really coming and falling. Well, there's two things I want to point out in this video. One is I've always assumed that it was law enforcement that was fudging all the stuff around the 911 call. Well, they got that body cam out now, and I no longer believe initially it was that anyways. So we know there was things fudged. So if it wasn't law enforcement, then it only leaves one little group of individuals. Right. So what we're going to look at is just a clip from the 1112 video that's been released. And then we're going to go to that body cam, look at some things from it, and I'm going to point out some strange things that should appear in both that don't, and I'm going to point out some very strange things around what could have happened where and what people said. Hold on to your hats, folks. This one's going to get crazy. So when we follow these texts from DM and BF, we'll see at 4:25:16, that's when the calls and texts stop for almost 2 minutes. So we would expect to at least hear some activity between that time if something nefarious is going on.
What did he say?
Between that time if something nefarious is going on. One more time. So at 4:25:54, we hear a door shut out in front of the King Road residence. And that is only about 40 seconds after the last call from BF to DM. And then the next thing